Hi there, this is Ruth from West Photography, Art and Inspiration. Just going to share a tutorial with you today to help you get started with using my textures on your photographs. And if you would like to try some of my freebies and have a little experiment along with me, then you're very welcome. You can click over to rhwest.com and select my freebies page, and you can find all the details there to download 7 new free textures. And I hope that you will enjoy using them. This tutorial today is going to be using one of the free ones, which is the vanilla texture, which is this one here. And I'm going to just go through quite a basic tutorial today, just to help those of you that are not familiar really with using textures. And I will be using Photoshop CS5, but these textures can be used in any system that allows you to use layers, so hopefully that you will be able to pick up enough information from this video to get you started and also give you some ideas as well. Okay, so first things first is to show you, this is the original image. This is my photo that I took, and this is the end result. I wanted to get a really nice sort of summery, a light sort of breezy feel, and thought that this vanilla texture here would be a good way to go with that one. You will need to just take some time to experiment with different textures, and that's half the fun of using them. It's so creative, and you often just find that happy accidents occur when you're just trying different blend modes and different things, and you'll sort of have aha moments along the way, and you think, oh, that's really good. So I hope this will get you started and fire you up to give it all a go. Okay, so always just start with your move tool selected over here in the top left of your toolbar. Have that selected, and then go down to the right hand side of your work area and right click on the background layer and click on duplicate layer and click OK in the little window that pops up, and it has a background copy there. Click OK, and that just gives you a copy of your background to work on, which is always a good practice to do. Then click on the texture that you want to use, and I just use the tabs layout here in Photoshop because I find it is just so much neater and easier to use when you've got lots of different things open, lots of different textures and things open in Photoshop. It just works for me. And the way that I do it is I just click on the texture and drag it over. You'll see that little rectangle and a square with a little cross in the middle. And that means you've basically grabbed the texture and then just let it go on the image you want it to go on. Then I'll just pop that texture back up on the tabs, select the image that I'm working on, and there you are. You'll see that the texture has arrived there on top of your image, and I'm just clicking and dragging to move the texture around. You can easily just, by using the bounding box around the texture, you can just grab it and move it around. You can move the sides in and out like this by just clicking and dragging. And the same, you'll see the arrows in the corner. You can just make them any size. You can even use parts of a texture. You don't have to use the whole thing, but this means that you can easily use a square texture on a landscape or any shape or size of photograph. They're really versatile. So for today's purposes, I'm just making the texture exactly the same size as my photograph underneath, and I double clicked to connect them. And now with layer 1 selected, that's the texture layer, and before we do anything else I'm going to just double click on there. where it says layer 1, and I'm going to label this layer and then click enter, and as you can see it's named the label vanilla. This is going to be really helpful for future reference. If this picture turns out really nicely, and perhaps I've used lots of different textures or different layers, and I want to come back to this recipe of how did I get to that lovely end result, maybe in a few days or weeks or months later, and I save this as a PSD, then it's going to keep all those layers and all the information in there for me to come back to. But so many times in the past, I forget to label my layers, and it's a bit of a pain really to try and work out what textures did I actually use. So learn from my mistakes and label your layers as you go along. It's a really good practice. So now we've labelled it, and the next thing to do is to select a blend mode. So you can see I'm hovering over there where it says normal. Click on that and it opens up all these blend modes, and there's lots of real variety in here. Basically the blend modes, it just gives you all sorts of options to blend the texture and the photograph together. And soft light is the blend mode I'm going to choose today. So I've just clicked on soft light and there it is. That's the effect you get with the soft light blend mode with this particular texture and picture. It's quite a nice subtle one to start with, sort of pale textures like this. It's a good blend mode as a rule of thumb, but do try others and you'll find all sorts of lovely results. Okay, and then click enter, and that means that you've selected it. For me, that's quite a nice effect, but the texture's not really showing up as much as I'd like. So what I'm going to do is duplicate the texture layer. So I'm going to right click and select duplicate layer, and as it says in the box, vanilla copy, click OK. And that's basically put a second layer of the texture again at soft light blend mode. It's just copied that layer underneath again, just exactly as it is with the soft light selected. And as you can see, that's made quite a difference. That's with one layer of the texture, and that's with two. I kind of like that, how it's coming. I can see more of the texture, but at the same time when you're using textures, sometimes it does make the other colours like greens and yellows especially, they can start to get a little bit too bright, and they don't really work so well. They can be quite distracting. As you can see, there's some little bits here and a little bit that's not really what I'm looking for. So to alter the colour underneath the texture, I'm going to select the background copy now, because I don't want to change the colour of the texture, but I want to change the colour of the original photograph. So I've selected background copy, and then I'm going to go up here to the adjustments and I'm going to click on selective colour, and that opens up all these different palettes. If you drop down here, you'll see all these different colours, and you can basically work through all of these and use the sliders here that pop open to alter the colours. Now the problem for me with this picture is there's too many yellows. I don't want those in there, so I've selected through this drop down menu yellows, and then underneath that there's these sliders, and I'm going to just slide the yellows down. As you can see, it's just taking that yellow down quite nicely. Actually, that works quite well. And I'm going to just play around with the cyan as well. I mean, just play around with your images and you'll see that you get all sorts of nice little effects by just playing around. And I think I'm going to go down to the neutrals and click that, and I'm just going to take the yellow slider down there. As you can see, it just gives it a lovely dreamy effect. I kind of like that for this particular image, and you can see you can alter and make it a little cooler or warmer with the cyans and the magentas, and just play around really until you find something that you kind of like. I like the sort of coolness of that one. I think that's quite nice. Okay, so to come out of that selective colour adjustment, you can just click on this arrow here at the bottom and it closes that up. Okay, so that's kind of quite nice, really, like that. But another thing you can do is sometimes if you're using multiple layers of texture, you can start to lose the detail a little bit too much in your actual photograph. And if you want to strengthen your photographic image up underneath the texture, just select background copy, highlight that, and then come up to the blend modes and go back up to soft light, click on that, and as you can see there, if I click off, that's how it was with the two copies of the two layers of the vanilla texture. And that's with the two layers, but with the background copy at soft light as well. So you've effectively got an extra little copy of the original image there. That's quite nice. I quite like that actually. But if you want a little bit more definition, that's another way to do it. And I think that's a little heavy for what I'm looking for. So what you can do is come up to the opacity, and if you hover over that word opacity, you'll see a little finger with arrows, and you can click and drag down to the left. You'll see the numbers changing down, and that's just reducing the opacity of that particular layer. And you can do that with any of these layers, whether you want the texture a little bit lighter or heavier. It's really nice because the layers start giving you a lot of freedom, and that means that we can be really creative. So that's kind of quite nice. That's about half. So I've got it at 48% there. I kind of like how that looks. That's giving it a nice dreamy look. And if you want to see the before and after kind of image, what you can do is hold Alt down and click on the background, the bottom layer, eyeball, and that just turns off all of the other layers. So you can see that's the original image that we started with. And then click on again, and that's quite a difference. But I kind of like that. I like the light dreaminess. And so that's something that you can try with the textures. You can use more than one copy of them or more than one layer, and you can use different blend modes, and you can use selective colour. I find really, really helpful. And there's lots of other things you can try, and it's just a question of finding your way around and allowing yourself to be creative and have some fun. So I hope you really enjoy the textures, and remember again that you can go back over to rhwest.com to find the freebies, and my other collections are there too. If you want to try them out, I'd be very honoured, and I hope that you have found this useful and that you enjoy using them. Thank you very much.